Hi, so today we're looking at lesson 7-2, solve triangle area problems. And our I can statement says that I can find the areas of triangles. So we're going to take a look at the solve and discuss it on page 393 to start. So grab your workbook if you need to. We're going to work through the next couple pages in the workbook to introduce the lesson. The solve and discuss it says connect point A to B, B to C, C to D, and D to A, then draw a diagonal line connecting opposite vertices in the figure to find the area of each triangle formed. So in the previous lesson, we have looked at finding the area of four-sided figures. And so we're going to use what we've learned to find the area of a triangle. So let me go ahead and connect A to B, B to C, C to D, and D to A. And you should do that in your book. And then it wants us to draw the diagonal. So it's turning a parallelogram into equally sized triangles. I want you to pause the video and see if you can figure out the area of each of these triangles from what we've learned in the previous lesson. Okay, so here you can see that one way to solve this is Anne's work. This ABC triangle is identical to the ADC triangle, and we know the area of a parallelogram would be base times height, and the base is 18. We just got that from counting the squares, and the height is 12. So base times height is 216. And in order to get the area of the triangle, we take half of that because there's two triangles. And so half of that is 108, and we still use square units. There's another way that you could have looked at this problem. This is Martine's work. So it says the triangles have the same base and height, and the area of one triangle is half the area of the parallelogram. So Martine wrote 1/2 times 18 times 12. So they did the same thing, but up here, they first found the area of the parallelogram. So when we look at this 1/2 times 18 times 12, we get 108 square units. And that is where we're going to be looking today. So actually, when we look at the area of a triangle, we can say that it is 1/2 base times height. And we can also write it like base times height divided by 2. Either one of those work. It's the same thing, and we did kind of talk about that in our last unit. Okay, turn the page to example 1. Our essential question, how can you find the area of a triangle? So looking at example 1, it says a parallelogram can be decomposed into two identical triangles. How can you use the formula for the area of a parallelogram to find the area of a triangle? Well, area of a parallelogram is base times height. And remember, the base could be either base as long as it's the flat side at the top or bottom. The height has to form a right angle. So you go from the top straight down, and that's base times height. Now, on this parallelogram, it's divided in half. So the area of a triangle would be 1/2 of that. When we look down here, it says a parallelogram can be decomposed. Decomposed just means taken apart into two identical triangles when divided diagonally. And they've drawn that line here, and they've shown us the base, which is the same base for the parallelogram. And then the height goes from this vertice straight down, and it forms a right angle. Identical triangles have the same base and height, so they also have the same area. When we look over here, it says the area of one triangle is half of the area of the related parallelogram. And so I showed you on the last page that this is how we can use a formula to find the area of any triangle. It is the same thing as saying base times height divided by 2. Sometimes, depending on the numbers you're working with, it's easier to take half of one of those numbers. Or if you're just going to use your calculator, you can do base times height and then divide by 2. Let's look at the try it. Pause the video and go ahead and fill in those answers. Okay, so we see here that the base is 12, the height is 5. I filled in 12 and 5. So half of 12 times 5, 12 times 5 is 60, half is 30. So we say the area is 30 centimeters squared. Let's turn over to the next page. It says find the area of a right triangle. Finding the area of a right triangle is exactly the same as finding the area of the triangles we did on the last page. It is actually kind of easier because the height is always going to be that line that comes down that forms the right angle. So here's an example of a birdhouse, the right triangle. What's the area? The right triangle is a square decomposed into 2 triangles. You can see here that it's 8 by 8 on this one. The 2 sides that form the right angle are the base and the height. So we can use that formula, base 1/2 base times height. So you can either do 1/2 times 8, which is 4 times 8 is 32. You could also do 8 times 8 is 64. Divided in half is 32. So the area of the birdhouse is 32 inches squared. Okay, let's take a look at the example 3. We're just going to look down to the bottom of the page. It says identify the corresponding base and height to find the area. So you can use different bases, but it determines which height you use depending on the base that you use. Kaylin drew a triangle below. What's the area of the triangle? Any side can be the base. The height is the perpendicular distance from the base to the height of the opposite vertex. So what that's saying is when you choose a base, you have to choose an appropriate height. So the height that we're going to use has to make a right angle on the base. So this is showing us 2 ways. We still have our formula 1/2 base times height. For this first one, they used 10 as the base. Change my color here. So they used this as the base. When they use that as the base, the height has to be 8 because that's what makes the right angle. This is not even part of the shape, but because it comes straight down, it could come straight down on this other side too, and makes a right angle. We know that we use 10 times 8. So 10 times 8 is 80, half of that is 40. We can use, get a different color here, another base and height. So if we're going to choose to use the 16 as the base, we have to use the height that is perpendicular. It comes from the vertices straight down. So we're going to use the 16 and 5. We get the same answer. We do 16 times 5 and then take half of that, and we get 40 feet squared. So either one is okay, but you cannot mix the base and height. The base and height have to be chosen together. Okay, scroll or move down to the try it, and I want you to pause the video and find the area of each of these 2 triangles. So for the first one, we're doing 1/2 base times height. The base is 9, the height is 6. I wrote them backwards here, but it doesn't matter for multiplication. You can go in any order. So then I took half of 6, which is 3. 3 times 9 is 27. We're finding area, so it's centimeters squared. Okay, for B, I'm going to show you 2 ways. So the first one that I'm going to do is I'm going to use this 12 as a base and 3 as my height. So this one I'm going to do 12 times 3 divided by 2. I'm using the same formula, just base times height divided by 2. So for that base and height, 12 times 3 is 36, and 36 divided by 2 is 18, meters squared. Okay, so that was one base and height. I'm going to show you using a different base and height. So let's say that I want to use this 9 as my base. Then I have to choose the corresponding height, which is 4. So I'm going to say 9 times 4 divided by 2. 9 times 4 is 36 divided by 2, 18, and it's meters squared. Same answer, just used a different base and height. All right, we're going to do one more thing. Turn the page. This key concept up here at the top is always a great reference sheet. So it says you can use the formula area equals 1/2 base times height to find the area of any triangle. An acute triangle, so an acute triangle means that the angles are less than 90. A right triangle, angles are exactly 90, and then obtuse, the angles are greater than 90, but we just have to always make sure we're finding this height, which makes a right angle down on the base. This does not matter that it's not included in the shape. It still gives us the height from top to bottom. So you can see they used 1/2 base times height for all 3 of these problems. All right, I want us to do 4, 5, and 6. So I'm going to have you pause the video and I want you to do 4, and I'll stop it every time in case you want to do one at a time, or you can do all 3 and then watch straight through. For number 4, we have a base of 4 and a height of 2. I don't know why I always write it the opposite. Again, you can switch when you're multiplying, but the area is 4 feet squared. Okay, for number 5, we are going to use this 4.2 as our base, and then that means our height is 3.5 because that's where the right angle is formed. So 1/2 times 4.2 times 3.5, I grab my calculator to solve that, and it's 7.35 inches squared. Let's try 6. Okay, for 6, we are given here, the base is 5. They give us the height as 6.5. So we plug in 1/2 base times height. Again, I used a calculator here, and my area is 6.25 centimeters squared. Okay, I hope that that has shown you how to find the area of a triangle. You are going to work on some practice problems now, and if you aren't sure, make sure you ask for help.